It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Adelphi Panthers head women's soccer coach, Coach Brooke DeRosa. How are you doing today?
Fine, thanks, Brandon. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in college women's soccer?
I think it pretty much fell into my lap right after I was done playing as a college student athlete. In 2007 was my last year playing, and just from there, um, I was deciding whether if I'm gonna stick with my education background or if I was going to get into coaching. And it just so happened that coaching opportunities came first for me, and I stuck with it.
Of course, for you as a player, what was that experience like going to two different colleges and getting to play collegiate soccer?
Well, they were two very different experiences. Um, One school was much bigger than the other school. The conference was a lot different, going from a big national conference to a little bit more local regional conference was different. The traveling was different. Um, but I would say, from one school academically, it was an amazing experience academically, and then the other school was just an amazing experience athletically. So I was fortunate to have a very good experience, although two different experiences, but they are very good experiences at both schools.
Of course, how was that experience like getting to put on the Syracuse jersey and the Hofstra jersey?
Well, this was a long time ago, so it's difficult to remember that exact moment. But I do remember my first game as a college player and how different it was than club. Um, the pace was different, the speed of the game, the players that I was playing with, the style. There were so many differences, and that took a while to adjust to in college. But I felt fortunate enough when I was wearing Syracuse or when I was playing at Syracuse that I felt like I was part of an enormous athletic department. And that was a really cool experience.
Of course, after your collegiate time, what was that experience like playing professional soccer for Long Island?
So at the time, again, this was a long time ago. At the time that I started playing for the Rough Riders, it was in the W League, and at that point, the W League was um, the oldest professional or semi-professional women's league in the world. So we played against a lot of national team players. I started playing it when I was in high school, and then when I got into college, or just before getting into college, WUSA started, which was the first professional women's pro league. And that didn't last very long. So there was a gap between that and the next professional league, and that's where, I continued playing with the Rough Riders. But it was a good experience because I played against the competition was very competitive at that time because I played against um, players that were on the national team or either from this country or from a different country. When I first started, Emma Hayes actually was my coach when I was in high school for the Rough Riders. So I came in contact with a lot of great coaches and a lot of great soccer players.
Of course, after your playing career, what was it like getting into coaching and becoming a head coach on the community college level?
Again, I think that was through just my network of soccer people who had me in mind when these kind of jobs opened up, and just through that network, I was able to have and come across that job and have the opportunity to work there. And I thought it was going to be a challenge because I've never done it before. But early on in my career, I never wanted to say no just because I wasn't confident in myself yet as a coach. But I knew that if I said yes to something that I wasn't ready for, it was going to be a learning experience.
For you, what was that feeling like going to Hoffert's and going back to your alma mater to become an assistant coach there?
So Hofstra, I have a lot of great memories at Hofstra. I've known the head coach for a long time. He's been a family friend for quite a while. My brothers knew him when they were younger. It was local, sort of. I grew up in that town that Hofstra is in. So I had a lot of different personal connections to the school. And then it just felt right coming back as a player there, where I did very well. And it felt normal. It felt very good to come back as a coach as well, just to stay connected with a school that gave me so much and stay connected locally to local players and the coaches, and just to have that opportunity again where I was saying yes to maybe a situation that I wasn't familiar with yet, but I knew I was going to learn.
Of course, while at Hofstra, what were some of the things that you were able to accomplish as an assistant coach?
Both as a player and as assistant coach, we won our conference tournament, um, which was very special, because I didn't get a chance to do that at Syracuse, and it was always something that I wanted to do as a player. So fortunately at Hofstra, I was able to do it as a player and as a coach. So, we won our conference both times. The first time I did it as a player in 2007, and then when I came back to coach in 2012, we won our conference again. And both times we were also we got into the NCAA tournament, which was another goal of mine as a player. And I was happy to reach that both as a player and as a coach at Hofstra.
What were some of the things that you were able to accomplish at St. John's University as an assistant coach?
So this was just another, I mean, I moved very quickly between the community school, Hofstra, St. John's. St. John's was actually my first full-time position as an assistant coach. And again, it was another situation where I didn't have much experience in, but I didn't want to say no just because of my lack of experience, because I knew if I said yes, I was going to be in a situation where I had an opportunity to learn from another really good coach. And it was another situation where just through my network, the coach at St. John's actually coached me while I was in high school. For about, I think it was like 5 or 6 years he coached me for. So I knew him very well, and I was very excited to be able to learn from him and work with him, and continue to learn so much because I felt like he really taught me so much as a player, growing up, that really refined the way I became, or the player that I did become. I learned so much from him. So going into the Big East, the travel schedule was a lot longer. The competition was consistently tough. So again, we're playing against players that will eventually be national team players or eventually be professional players. We had some professional players on St. John's at the time. So I was fortunate both at Hofstra and St. John's to coach a few professional players.
Of course, what was that feeling like becoming a head coach for the first time and coming to Alpine?
So my first experience with Adelphi was my interview in 2015, again, through my network. And coincidentally, the AD at the time at Adelphi was also the assistant AD at Hofstra while I was a player there in 2007. So I had that connection. And it was a little overwhelming, but I was very flattered and very appreciative and grateful of the opportunity that they even, had me in mind and thought about me for that position. And it was another place for me where Adelphi, when I visited the campus and when I met the people that worked here. It was clear to me that it was a very close community of staff members, of athletes. The campus was small campus, but it was convenient to be able to get from class to this training field. And the training field was a professional setting, I feel like, because the locker room was set up very near to the field, where you can go into the locker room before, during halftime, after halftime, and it gave a sense of a professional setting that I really was attracted to, and it was appealing to me as a coach to have that professional setting and to build that type of atmosphere within a team. I was attracted to that, and it just felt like, again, it was another place local. It was near to where I grew up. So I had those family connections locally to the school, and it just felt like it was a good fit for me.
Of course, for you, what was that feeling like the first time as a head coach you got to step onto the Adelphi soccer field?
So it's hard to explain those type of feelings, even if you have so much time between then and now. It's still hard to explain what you're going through and hard to articulate exactly what you're going through. I think there's so many different things that run through your head. For me, it was just trying to stay calm so I'm able to make decisions that I need to make as a head coach, because there are so many things that go on at once. And that was the challenge for me, is to stay calm, to stay composed throughout, throughout my entire experience. But it was such a positive feeling, just the energy of the players, the energy of the environment at the school, within the athletics department. It's such a positive energy that I felt as a head coach. So I only felt positive things in my first game, and excitement, of course, nerves, but the nerves didn't overpower, and it turned out to be a very positive experience.
What does a typical game day look like for you as a head coach versus for your players?
I think game days are really for the players. I try to set it up as best I can for them, to have to have what they need to perform, and also not to be a distraction. So it's a balance between giving them the information that they need to perform, but also not distracting them and by giving them too much information. So we do have a team meeting, but it's typically a few hours before the game, so that information can sink in, or if they need a little bit more time before the game to ask questions or to go over a few things, I allow for that time. But they lead their I guess routines. They have their routine pregame, which is big for them. I think it's important for them to develop a routine on their own before pregame, to build those relationships, to build their confidence before the game, and to build that routine for them to be able to rely on themselves within the game. And then game time starts. I connect with them a little bit right before game time begins, and then kickoff starts.
Of course, what does a typical home game look like for you?
Yeah, so the environment's important in home game, because again, it's the way the facility's set up, where we have our locker room so close to the field, so we have that professional feel where the environment in the dressing room is important. And I think our team does a pretty good job of creating that environment, that positive environment, that supporting environment in the dressing room, in the locker room, that it's conveniently located next to the field, so they can take that energy that they have from the locker room and bring it into the field very closely. And everyone kind of feeds off that energy right before pregame, especially being home and playing in front of their fans and playing in front of their family. I think there's a huge connection. A lot of our kids are local players. and which means they have a lot of their family members that can attend the game, and they feel that support through their fans, and not only from their family members, but we get a pretty good turnout from other sports teams within our athletics department. And being a small school, they do make those friendships between other sports team, and it makes home games pretty special.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you built for the soccer program?
Well, I think the inspiration for the culture came from the history of the school itself. I know that the Adelphi has a pretty strong history of doing well in their conference, doing well nationally, getting to the national final previously, getting to the Final Four previously. And that was kind of my inspiration, is getting back to that place where Adelphi had so much success in the 90s and early 2000s. And I wanted to bring that back. And coming from St. John's, there was a few things that I just needed to adjust, but not a lot, because Adelphi had a strong history already. They had a good foundation of players already. Chris Armas was the coach a few years before I got here, and he did a good job of building a foundation, building a playing style. And I didn't want to come in and change too much, but I did want to reach back into that history and that tradition that Adelphi had of being successful. And I wanted to make that a little stronger. And that's been my inspiration. That's been my focus since, is building character, and a character that relates to that successful tradition that Adelphi has had in the past.
What has it been like, obviously, getting to take Adelphi to 5 NCAA appearances?
I think it's first, it's setting goals, team setting goals, and it's putting methods and action plans in place to help the team achieve their goals and to help individuals achieve their goals. And it's always a work in progress. But we try to do our best to help the team achieve their goals, to help the team reach their goals, and to help individuals become the players that they want to become, as in college. And I have a really great staff who, throughout the years, who has helped me kind of transfer the methods into training, transfer the methods into off the field. And it's important to me that our staff works together in that way, to help the players and to help the team achieve their goals.
Of course, as a head coach, what was that experience like, getting to take them to the Final Four in 2023?
Well, again, it's another situation where it's difficult to express, and to articulate those moments that you'll never forget. It's almost like you have this memory of these moments, but you don't necessarily have the words for the moments, but in your head you always remember them. I think one of the reasons I came to Adelphi, because I felt it was a location, and it had a history of doing well, and that history was appealing to me, because I felt Adelphi was a place where I could compete in the conference and we could compete nationally. And that was a goal of mine, to win our conference and to win a national championship. Although the national championship hasn't happened yet, but we're getting closer, and we got closer last year. And this was just been a goal of mine as a coach. And I think as a lot of coaches who coach in college, want to do as best as they can. And normally what signifies that is winning championships. And that is something that I've always wanted to do as a player, and always wanted to do as a coach. And I felt Adelphi was the best place in New York for me to do both. And it was an overwhelming feeling. I was so proud of the players, for what they accomplished, for everything that they went through, all the ups and downs that they'd experienced throughout the season. I was just so happy for them. I was so happy for them to experience something so positive in their life that they'll never forget. And I was just happy to be a part of that.
Who are some of the teams in your conference that you compete against each week?
So our conference is one of the strongest conference in Division II. And we're fortunate to be able to play in such a strong conference. St. Rose, who unfortunately their school just closed this year, tragically. But they were at the time last year ranked #1 in the country. And they've always been ranked top 10 as long as I've been in the conference. As long as I've been working at Adelphi, they've been our strongest opponent. But Franklin Pierce is also a strong opponent. They have a really great history, successful history in the national stage. Southern New Hampshire is another really formidable opponent. Really strong, plays very well, good playing style. You know, those teams, we've had a few teams leave our conference and go into D1, that were always athletically very gifted teams, difficult to play against athletically, made it very difficult to play, the way we want to play. So each team is kind of unique in our conference, but we know that it's going to be very physically taxing on us. It's going to be very difficult. They make it very difficult to play. But we always appreciate and respect all the opponents that work as hard as they can against us. We feel very grateful for that opportunity to be able to play against that type of competition.
What is that home game atmosphere like when teams like Frank Pierce comes to their home versus going to St. Peter's?
We don't play St. Peter's, we play St. Mike's. So it's that travel schedule is a little bit different. We're spending a lot of hours on the bus. And it's more comfortable being at home, obviously. The players can sleep in their own beds, they can, you know, get the night's sleep that they want, they go through their daily routine the way they want. Again, they have that extra support and fan base, either from their families or from the students, and then just local spectators. It just helps us maintain that energy that our team has in our home games.
What does that recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes looking to play collegiate soccer?
I think it's unique for each individual. I don't think any recruit has the same path, nor should they have the same path, and I don't treat it that way either. Every individual has a different background and has to be treated that way. So I take multiple ways of recruiting. I mean, we do go to showcases, we go to regular season games, we'll go to training. Division II has a unique opportunity where they can invite players down to train once during their recruitment process with our team. We have clinics, we have camps. I like to recruit on a personal level, so I like intimate environments where I get to talk to the recruit, I get to coach with them, I get to be close when they're playing. So I like more personal style or methods of recruiting, so I can build relationships with the players, and so they can get a little bit more accurate perspective of the environment here.
Of course, what is it like getting to see those prospective student athletes fall in love with the campus?
The campus is very beautiful. It's a small campus, but it's almost like a botanical garden a little bit. The buildings, a lot of the buildings are pretty old, and there's a mix of older buildings and newer buildings. And it just makes it feel like a close community. The way the facilities are set up, athletically, makes it feel like there's a focal point here. And there's a support system here within the athletics department, and I think recruits can feel that when they do visit the school.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those freshmen put on that uniform for the first time?
Yes, it's a huge adjustment, as I mentioned earlier, it's one of the biggest adjustments that an athlete will experience when they're going from high school and they're going from youth club to the college environment. It's a huge adjustment, and we just want to give the freshmen as much support as possible to help them adjust and as they go through their journey of their freshman year. And I always love seeing freshmen doing well when they play I think it's just something a little bit more special when a freshman gets to start and when a freshman gets to step on the field. And then when a freshman gets to do well, um, I'm always so happy for them because I know how hard it is to overcome that adjustment. And then when I see them being successful in a really difficult environment, I'm really happy for them.
What is it like as a head coach seeing those players put on that uniform for the last time as seniors?
Yeah. Again, I think there's a lot that goes through your mind when all of a sudden a student athlete that you've been with for 4 years is no longer a part of the team, and they're just such a huge part, a huge piece that of the fabric of the team, and you just know that, and you just hope that what they've done for the team lasts beyond their physical presence. And I think that's, for me, that's what I try to get the seniors to understand is that your actions and your behaviors, even though you won't be here physically, but your actions and behaviors can last long after you're gone. And it's a little bittersweet when, they play their last game because you know how much they've grown since their freshman year, how hard they worked, on the field, off the field. And it seems like just that last game that's it. But, I do think that the role models that they are lasts longer than the physical presence that they have with us while they're playing.
Of course, as a head coach, what is it like getting to see those players after their playing career go into college coaching or even professional soccer in the NWSL?
So we typically don't have too many kids going into the NWSL. At our school where, we have a priority on academics, we have a priority on career, and we have a good balance of allowing the student athletes to do well in their career, to do well in their academics, and also to be successful on the field. So most of our student athletes go right into their career and are successful in getting the jobs, that they're looking for as soon as they graduate. So we're very proud, and I'm very proud of all the student athletes who have come through here and who are now in the career field that they chose and doing well in the career field that you chose. We have doctors, we have nurses, we have coaches, we have educators, we have teachers. So we have a wide range of student athletes being successful in the career that they chose.
As a head coach, what is it like getting to see those players go into coaching just like you have?
Coaching is tough. It's a form of education. I know that a lot of coaches think you have to teach the skill first, but I think it is an education of building relationships between you and your staff, between you and the athletes. And that takes, a long time to do. And I'm happy that when I see players continue with the game as a coach, because I know how much of their lives and their time in their lives they've given up to play this sport, and how big of a part of their life that this sport has been for them. And it just feels special when they continue to stay in the game as a coach, and where they keep the sport alive with them.
What are some of your future plans for the soccer program moving forward?
Well, as I kind of mentioned earlier, I think setting goals is important. And again, one of our goals is to continue to compete in our conference for that championship and to continue to compete nationally for the national championship. I think that's a big goal of ours. Athletically, academically, we want to make sure that students are graduating and that they're going into the career that they chose, and they get something after they graduate. We know that they're going to get a degree. That's good. That's number one. But we want to give them something more too. We want to give them something they can remember athletically, whether it's a championship, whether it's some award recognition. And of course, we want to give them an environment where they're building friendships and they're building networks within their teammates, within the athletic department. we want our student athletes to leave with something more than just a degree, because we know that they're more than just a student athlete.
What advice would you give those incoming freshmen entering their first year of college soccer?
Well, I think before entering, my advice would be to watch as much college soccer as you can, so you're aware of the environment that you're getting into. I think that a lot of recruits come into the situation where they just want to be recruited by a certain college or by a certain name, and they get caught up in the names of the school without really knowing what the playing environment is like. And I think the only way that you can become a true fan of college soccer is if you watch it as much as possible. And I know now it's a lot more accessible to watch games online and streaming, and it's much easier to watch games, especially if the college you don't live close to that college. But I know around here locally, there's a lot of D1, D2, D3 schools, and I think it's important for recruits to become more familiar with those games. Go to home games, watch as much soccer as you can, because I also think that if you're watching better soccer, you're more likely to mimic those players that you're watching, which I think improves their IQ as well. So my advice is to watch as much college soccer as you possibly can, and this will help you in your decision-making process.
What advice would you give those college seniors out there that are looking to play professionally, whether it's the NWSL or the US route?
I think belief. I think it's all about your belief. It's all about what you want to do. And it's all about what you want and committing to the decision that you've made. If you make a decision that you want to go and play pro, then commit to that decision 100%. I know there's a lot of people that doubt themselves, that doubt their abilities, but you can't be the person to doubt yourself. You have to be your number one fan. You have to be your number one supporter. And I think belief and commitment to that decision that you've made 100%, and not to give up on yourself and not to give up on your decision to play pro.
What advice would you give those players out there looking to get into coaching after their playing career?
Coaching is about networking. Coaching is about experiencing. I think it's the same as playing. If you're going to become a soccer player, you have to put hours into mastering, that skill of playing the game, mastering those experiences, those cognitive experiences, those technical experiences. It's the same as a coach. I think if you're getting into coaching, you should coach as much as you can at any age group, because every age group is different and every age group gives you a different perspective on the game and on how you translate that information to players and the connections that you make with players. So, I would encourage you to network with as many coaches as you possibly can, and to coach as many different levels and as many different players as you possibly can.
What advice would you give those future head coaches out there looking to build their own program and build their own legacy?
Well, it takes time. And there's no substitute for that. And I wouldn't say, like, I don't know if I'm exactly in a position to give advice. I'm still learning myself. I'm still going through this myself. I'm not, I don't see myself as a coach that knows everything. But I just think that if you're a coach that wants to get into this environment, um, you need to be flexible and you need to put in the time, um, to be there when a problem arises, and to be open-minded to solve that problem.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with your program at?
I actually don't have social media, but you can find Adelphi Women's Soccer on all the platforms, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and you can find our website online.
Thank you again, Coach Brooke DeRosa, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with Adelphi.
Thank you, Brandon.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Brooke, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.